Hi everyone. We've been looking at abbreviated truth tables where the argument in question is not valid. And abbreviated truth tables are a great way to find an invalid argument without filling out the whole thing. They're also a good way to detect a valid argument. I thought I'd go over an easy one for you. Let's take a look at this one. This is 7.4c, number 1. Now when you're looking at it, maybe you know just from looking at it that not A or B, therefore, if A then B is a valid argument. If you do, good for you. But even if you don't know that, what we're going to do when we try to construct an abbreviated truth table is we're going to try to make the premise true and the conclusion false. Let's start here. We want the conclusion to be false. We want it to not be true that if A then B. Now, of course, if we're going to make the conclusion false, how do we make a conditional statement false? Well, there's only one way. A has to be true, and B has to be false. Now, let's go back into the premise. Let's see what we get if we fill this in. Well, we just said B has to be false, A has to be true, and not A, therefore has to be false. But now we come to a problem. What are we going to put under the V? What are we going to put under the OR sign? Well, in order to construct an argument with a true premise and a false conclusion, you'd want it to be true. But if you look at that, well, that's not true. If you've got false or false, well, that's not a true statement. That's false. That's the only time the disjunction is false, when you've got false or false. So instead of T, what we need to do is we need to put a slash there to indicate that we can't assign it a truth value. There's no consistent way to assign it a truth value. And then we hit this button, the valid button, to indicate that we think that this is a valid argument. And we're right. It is indeed a valid argument. There's no row with the premises all being true and the conclusion being false.